Alright guys, welcome back to Max Boneyard Builds. So, what we're going to do now this morning is we're going to get the 4.8 pulled off the truck with the cherry picker. We're going to get it put on the motor stand. We're going to get it tucked out of the way. Then we have to start working on the red one, get the hood off, get all the wiring labeled, make sure we know exactly where all the sensors go and stuff, and then get all the harness out of the way, and then start plucking the 350 out. Sounds like a bunch of work. That's alright. Alright guys, I'm sure you saw the one-man struggle getting her out of the back of the pickup. Woo, she didn't want to come. I was afraid she was going to jump on me. A couple things. Always make sure you label your flywheel. Yes, it's all over the internet. Yes, it's got a dish to it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Takes 2 seconds. Put a label on it. That way, in case you got to take your flywheel off, you know which way it goes. After you get it up here like this, then all you have to do, get your engine stand, get all these loose, that way you know where to go with them, get them bolted up to the back. Now, don't try and bolt it up with it all together on the stand. We'll get it bolted up, get it on the stand. Alright guys, got it off the cherry picker. She's sitting on the motor stand, excuse me. If you noticed, the old seatbelt trick, if you got to pull a motor yourself in the junkyard, and usually they just have those H-frame hoists or whatever they're called. I can't think what they're called right now. Anyways, man, grab yourself a seatbelt out of the cars. I think by law they really can't sell them, or at least they're not supposed to. Anyways, wrap that sucker around the exhaust manifolds, and then you can obviously move it to where you need to help tilt it if you have to or whatever. But man, these things hold thousands of pounds. I mean, zero issues, and you got yourself an instant strap right there in the junkyard. So, all right, so we're gonna roll her on into the garage and keep moving on the project. All right guys, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna get this hood out of the way. That way I've got access to, the whole time I'm playing with labeling all my wiring and stuff from the old harness, I've got the adequate light, and I ain't bumping my head, and plus we're gonna have to put the new motor in, and you know, we got a lot of stuff to do ahead of us. So taking off a hood, it's much easier as a 2-man job, but it can be accomplished as a 1-man job. Main thing you want to do is protect your windshield. So what I always do is I got extra towels and stuff all laying around the shop, tuck that thing up against the cowl and against the glass. Let me find something else to put on this corner, because after you get your bolts out, you're going to have to gently kind of lay that thing in towards the windshield, so that way you've got some support. Whenever you do that, make sure you got something behind it, so that way you're not pushing right against the glass, because these corners and stuff, if you hit your glass just right, you're going to end up cracking your glass. So once you get that baby up, get these tucked down in there. Make sure it's got something soft to rest on. All right. bolts. Just crack them, get the tension off of them. About it. Woo! See? That's why you put that right there. Protect that windshield. Alright. Obviously keep your hand on it now. Because now she's just hanging on by a prayer. Well, come on. Fingers running out of energy here. Alright, so I lost the bolt. That's okay, we'll get it. As you can see, blankets protected the windshield. Once that tension goes, hood's gonna go. Lay it back down. Boom. These hood props will hold it by itself. Now you can get a better position, grab a hold of it. There you go. As you can see, no big scrapes on the paint or nothing, no damage to the windshield, just a little bit of far reach and a little bit of finger strain, and man, you're good to go. Alright, let's get this thing out of here for now. I forgot to say, guys, your bolts for your hood, throw them back into the holes, because it's real easy to lose your bolts and stuff when you're doing a big project. Your next best thing, obviously sometimes you can't put the bolts back where they need to go in certain circumstances. Whew, boy, walking this thing out to the shed kind of got me winded. Anyways, if you cannot get them threaded back in to the bolts that you need to, Ziploc bags, they are your best friend. Get some Ziploc bags, label everything, get them at the dollar store. They ain't got to be no ultra grips or nothing crazy. Get your Ziploc bags, label them, put your bolts in there, that way you know where everything goes. Alright, so now what I'm going to start doing is getting rid of the stuff I don't need. Air filter, all this stuff that just kind of got thrown in here over time. Probably going to get the AC compressor and the lines and stuff out of here for now. That way I'm not fighting those. I'll fight air conditioning at a later date. Then I will get everything else labeled up. That way I know exactly what everything is. And then after that, we will make sure everything's disconnected, and we will get this old 350 plucked out of here. Alright guys, I've been at it for a couple hours now. As you can see, I've got all the wire loom tucked up real high, and I got everything labeled where it came from. I know I'm not going to use the majority of it, but that way I know what every sensor, what every wire was that came off. Still got to pull that manifold off on that side. I think I've got everything clear over here. I got the water pump currently dripping, antifreeze and everything down there in the catch can. Got a bunch of accessories stuff off the top of the motor. Of course, when I went to move the compressor, it started leaking. As you can see, I've still got it buttoned up over there. I still got to get a evacuation tank to get rid of the cooler, the refrigerant. Sorry guys. Got everything buttoned off back there. Got the fuel lines off. Got the back of the harness disconnected from the motor from the oil pressure. I got this manifold pulled off to the side. Still got to pull the power steering lines. Other than that, disconnect it from the tranny, get it hooked onto a hoist. I think all I got's disconnect from the tranny. I got that manifold, power steering lines, and that might be it. So whenever the kid gets home, I'm going to have him help me with those, and obviously the transmission bolts, because he's got smaller arms or skinnier arms than me. Get those going. Then we should be pulling the old 5.7 Vortec out of the OBS. Real quick guys, get a mechanical fan off. Whenever you've got everything else, alternator and everything else in here, you're going to have a lot of tension on this water pump. So normally what you can do, get yourself a big wrench, get it on there. I like the adjustable flavor. That way you've got all the big sizes in the world, because them big wrenches, woo baby, they're expensive. Anyways, get it on there. You'll have some tension. Smack that baby with a hammer and it'll break it loose. You can also use an air chisel if you got one, but if you don't have one, like right now, I had no tension. So what I did was got myself a cheater bar. This is just a giant screwdriver. Wedged it in between the two water pump bolts. Gave her a big ooga dooga. Bam. Got it loose. Once it's loose, it'll just spin right off. Just like that. Give yourself some extra room. Alright, another update. Got the oil cooler lines off the Rad. Didn't know they had oil coolers, but they do. They're off. Got the power steering lines off. They're tucked off to the side. I think all we've got left, which called in reinforcements. Finally home from school. He's getting the passenger side exhaust manifold off. Then all we got to do is fight the transmission bolts. And boy, I think after that we may be good. Alright guys, I think we're going to call it for today. I think we've got everything ready to roll. It's still attached to the transmission, but I think me and Ben were talking. I think it'll be easier if we just get a spare 4L60 yoke, slam it in the transmission, and then pull the transmission and everything all at once instead of trying to fight that firewall and everything, trying to get those transmission bolts out and torque converter bolts out and everything else, and we'll just pull it all out as one unit. That way we can get the transmission and everything cleaned up. Or I was reading, I think I can use this transmission with the new motor, but whenever I pick up the extra yoke, we might see if we can just get a 9902 or whatever 4L60, a newer 4L60 to slam on it and not have to see if it works. We can know that it works. Alright guys, still working on getting everything unbuttoned down here on the transmission.
side of things. Drive shaft, vehicle speed sensor, all that fun stuff. One thing I wanted to point out, right there, that is your neutral safety switch, reverse lights, park, reverse, neutral, drive indicator, all that on your 4L60s. Those two plugs, that guy and that guy, whenever they were first put in, they actually used like a glue to hold them in. Don't just start yanking on them. You're going to break the tabs, you're going to break the neutral safety switch, stuff like that. What you need to do is you need to get a heat gun or something, and in my case, your wife's hair dryer, you know, low buck, and you want to heat those babies up nice and hot and get that glue nice and hot again, so that way those plugs will come out and you're not going to destroy them. Because I'm thinking about probably reusing that. That way I've got my reverse lights and gear indicator and all that stuff on the dash all working. So just wanted to throw that in there. There you go, guys. You can kind of see that glue that's on there. It only took about 3-4 minutes with the hair dryer, and I got that glue nice and hot again. Didn't break the neutral safety switch. Didn't break any of the tabs on the plugs. So, little trick for you. Use your wife's hair dryer. She'll never know. Alright guys, I think tomorrow may be able to pull this motor, hopefully. Man, this thing has been a beast. When I pulled the 350 out of the blue one, it was nothing. Took like one evening. I've been on this thing for a couple days trying to get it ready to roll. It just ain't wanting to go. Every time I turn around, I'm finding something else. But let me get you turned around, and I'll show you where we're at. Alright guys, so I got both the manifolds off. I've got all the accessories and stuff off. Got a lot of room up here up front. Got all the wiring harness and stuff tucked up against the wiper cowl and that. I think I've got just a couple more things. I think I've got like one more bracket or something on the back there with the wire loom. So once I pull the motor out a little bit, I'll be able to get back in there. I just can't get my fat hands back in there. I got underneath the truck tonight, got, oh, and you probably aren't going to be able to see anything, but I got all the wiring and everything off of the transmission here. Started working on the drive shaft, and the back U-joint on the rear end, that thing is seized in there. I got the caps off, PB blasting, been hitting it with a crowbar or a pry bar and everything. It will not come off that rear end for nothing. So I don't know if it's just seized up a little bit, what the deal is. So I got it soaking down with some PB blaster. Hopefully that will loosen things up tomorrow. It's about midnight here. The rest of the family's sleeping, so I don't want to wake them up. So I'm going to let that soak for the night, hit it with a big hammer tomorrow. I'm sure that'll probably break it loose. I'll get the drive shaft out of the way, get the transmission cross member out of the way, get the transmission on a jack, and snip this thing out of here, and then bam. Then it's time to clean an engine bay and sort out wiring and all the other fun stuff. Alright guys, finally got the U-joint to let go off of the rear end. Don't forget to put your tape around your U-joints. Otherwise them caps, they like to come off, then you got needle bearings out of place, and basically just make a whole lot of work for yourself. But once I got that off of there, drive shaft pulled back. Oh. Of course, down at Red's, they hooked me up with some plugs for the transmission, and I grabbed the wrong size, of course. So I had to scramble to try and find another one, and pretty much made a murder scene here in the garage floor. That's all the kitty litter I got. If your garage floor ain't getting dirty, guys, you're doing something wrong. Anyways, so I think I'm pretty much ready to snip this drivetrain out of here. I'm going to go over everything one more time, make sure I didn't forget anything. Man, I'll tell you what, the newer the vehicle, the more connections they got. I cannot believe how many connections this thing had compared to the 81 with the 350 in it. This 98 with the 350 is unbelievable. Connections everywhere. But I think I got it ready to go. I'm going to try and clean up the murder scene here a little bit and see what we can do. Alright guys, it only took us a few hours with the help of my mini-me here. Boom, it's out of there. We got the transmission and the motor pulled at the same time. Got a time lapse, but it took us a couple hours. Time lapse may have died on us. We ran into some technical difficulties, being the garage door. But we got it all out, one piece. We only had a few casualties. Broke that transmission plug on the back. Yep. We had a murder scene underneath the truck. But now we can get down to the dirty work. Getting rid of all the old battery cables, pulling the wire loom, getting it thinned out. We can get rid of those 350 exhaust manifolds. Bennett can get in here and he can wire brush and Craigslist rebuild the frame and everything, make it look good. Hey, happy Thanksgiving. Get everything cleaned up. So hopefully by the next time you guys see this, it's going to look completely different. If I do anything along the way I think you guys need to know, obviously I'll let you in on the action, but I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel. You know, pulling a motor and stuff like that, I'm not going to show you every single bolt and stuff to take off. Like, if it's in the way, take it off. Anytime you pull a motor, you're going to forget something. Bennett, what did we forget?
Oh, it was a cable.
No.
What?
No, it wasn't a cable.
Was it the bolt that was, like, right there?
We detached the fuel lines from the intake, but we didn't take the support off of the back of the motor. So the fuel lines were still connected to the back of the motor.
That's what it was.
So every time we would pull on it, it would pull us right back, and we could not figure it out. But we figured it out. Every time you pull a motor, you're going to have some headaches. You're going to have some trials, and but you'll get over them. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Thanks a lot for checking out Max Boneyard Builds. We're only few like 20 or 30 subscribers away from 1,000. So if you cut the channel by chance, make sure you subscribe. Let's hit that 1,000. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next time.